Good afternoon and welcome to the Business Relationship Matter Network and the Spotlight Speaker section of the day. I'm delighted to introduce Greg Mitchell of HR Success, located in Sydney. And Greg has been in his business for 18 years. He established it over 18 years ago. And he specializes in leadership, people HR, and he's also a Toastmaster. And I've heard him speak, and it is very, very good as well. So I welcome him today. Thank you very much for giving your time up, Greg, to deliver the presentation, and we look forward to it.
Thank you, Ross, and good afternoon, everybody. Nice to be with you. Thank you for the invitation, Ross. Today, I've got two businesses, so HR Success and Success Through People. Today, I'm focusing more on the Through People component. The theme for our session today is unlocking success through people, the SME advantage. So Ross has already told you this, but we're a small firm. Myself and my colleague Margot, HR Success really focuses on HR support. We do a bit of recruitment, whereas Success Through People really focuses on leadership, culture, engagement, and team training. I'm going to whiz through some of these pretty quickly, but I will forward a copy of the presentation to Ross, who can send it on to you in the event you miss any particular details. And I do realise most of you have small businesses, micro business. So when we talk about the topic today, I think both of your own business and the people that you work with, but also potentially your clients' businesses. I think a number of you would have clients that have a team for whom this might be of interest. So think about it and how you might be able to add value to them that way. First thing to point out, managing staff can be a challenge. Can I have a hands up? Anybody that's found that to be a challenge in the past or present? What do you think? I'm keen to get a little bit of discussion going, recognising that we do have limited time, but good to hear voices other than mine. In your experience, folks, either as an employee in corporate life or in the firms that you work with currently, the clients who work with currently, where do you see it going wrong? What particular challenges do you find business owners and managers having in terms of managing people? Perhaps just unmute if you've got a comment.
I'll go. Oh yeah, go Pete.
Having those tough conversations.
Yeah. Okay, that's a big one, and that's where we often get a phone call. So thank you, Peter. Yep. Sandra, you had something as well?
It's managing expectations, that staff think one thing and what is expected of them, and managers speaking French or German or some other language, and there's that kind of mix in the middle where it kind of doesn't happen.
Yeah. Okay, so a couple of good ones. I'm sure there's plenty more that you've got in mind.
Joanne's got a question.
Oh, Joanne, sorry, yeah.
Not a question, but what I've noticed is a lot of small business owners are not ready for staff. They haven't got systems and processes and SOPs and those sort of things, so they can hand over the task to their staff effectively.
That's great. I think you'll see some of those themes running through the presentation today. So thank you for that. I'm not going to walk through this, but I could point to my right here and point out a whole bookshelf of studies and whatnot, research that show that investing in your people leads not only to a better workplace, a more satisfying workplace, but it also means a more productive and higher profitability in terms of business. So it makes sense to spend some time thinking about how you're managing your team. Having said that, in my experience, managing people can be a bit like catching smoke. We know it's important. We know that we're meant to be leaders and there's certain thing that we're meant to be doing, but what the hell is it? What does it involve? What can I grab onto and do to make a difference to my team and my business? That thought, in some ways, was the origin of my Success Through People model, which I developed 15 years ago or something like that. And what I did was I'd been working in corporate organisations. Then I started my own business, predominantly supporting smaller businesses. And I thought, well, I go into businesses, some businesses are highly productive, people are working together, they're excited, they're energized, they're, doing good things. And then I go into other workplaces and it's a cesspit of gossip and backbiting and lack of productivity, poor profitability. And I thought, well, what's the difference between those two? I thought back over my career, which is now 30 years plus, and I came up with this model, which is really a distillation of that learning over that time. And what I found was that in terms of managing people, at least, the most successful businesses have 8 key features. They have a clear vision and strategy, they have effective leadership, they recruit the right people, they set clear expectations, which was mentioned already, they ensure accountability, they equip others, which was also mentioned. Joanne mentioned about not being ready to engage staff. They manage the risk and they value people. And if they get that right, my experience is, and the research supports, they have higher levels of performance, strong cultures, they're more sustainable business, and they have happier staff, and they have happier owners and managers. Very quickly to move through some of these. Clear vision, values and strategy. What can you do? So these are my top tips. You actually need to work with your team. It's no use going off on an independent workshop or down an AI rabbit hole and creating a vision for your business. You really need to engage your staff in that. So where are we going? What's important to us as a business and how are we going to get there? Engage them in that discussion and then communicate that effectively and then consistently reinforce those visions, that vision, the values and strategy of your business in your day-to-day communications with your team. Effective leadership. Who's ever left a job because they had a bad boss? I certainly have. I can probably put 2 hands up because I've left 2 jobs because of bad bosses. And people do it. I tell my own kids, they're 30 and 35 now, makes me feel old. But anyway, I've said to them, when they get cold feet, I say, look, have you got a good boss? If you've got a good boss, then learn what you can, because they're not all good bosses. So really, effective leadership is one of the, together with clear vision, values and strategy, I call those the 2, do not pass go, do not collect $200. If you don't have those things in place, frankly, building the rest of the components that you need to run a successful business in terms of managing people is going to be pretty difficult. So make sure you've got good leaders, invest in them. If they're not good leaders, do something about it or get them out of the business. Recruiting right. I know Sandra there, so she'll probably nod away as I talk about this one. It's really important. Sometimes people just take it for granted. All right, I'm the king of the castle. Everybody's going to want to come and work for me. Well, that's crap. It might have worked 20 years ago. It doesn't work anymore. You need to know your market. You need to put a professional foot forward when you're recruiting people. I have a good friend who many years ago, he was in a very high demand occupation. He was a work health and safety fellow, quite senior in his role. He went for a job that many people would kill for because it was a very prestigious organisation. They offered him the job after going through all the hoops and he said no. And they said, my God, why not? Why wouldn't you want to come and work here? He said, you made such a hash of the recruitment process. I can't imagine what it's like working for you. He said it was just clumsy. You didn't communicate. You didn't do what you said you'd do when you said you'd do it. And no, thanks. I don't want to work there. But really invest in that process. Engage an expert like Sandra or ourselves if you need to, but make sure you put the time into recruitment that it deserves. Setting clear expectations. So Sandra may have mentioned that one. What does it take? People just don't intuitively know what it is you want them to do. You need to tell them. You need to communicate. You need to acknowledge them when they're doing it the right way. You need to coach them when they're not doing it the right way. So be clear about what you need them to do and be clear about how you need them to do it. So that means things like position descriptions. Yes, they're boring as hell, and I don't like writing them either, but they're important documents. They help you set clear expectations. Have a strong onboarding or induction process. Have delegations, clear policies and procedures. Joanne mentioned that. And sit with them regularly. Tell them how they're meeting or not meeting your expectations. Now, the reverse side of that coin is accountability. It's no use setting expectations if you're not holding people accountable for their performance. I met a husband and wife team a number of years ago. I went through this process and they said, oh, yeah, we do that setting expectations thing very well. And I said, well, what about accountability? What happens when someone doesn't meet your expectations? And the wife laughed at her husband and said, he does nothing. And then, so, those two things have got to be there to ensure success. If you're setting expectations, you've got to then, there's got to be consequences of people not meeting those expectations. Equally, there needs to be kudos, acknowledgement, praise when people are doing the right thing. Equipping others. You need to give people what they need to be successful. So whether that's information, whether it's delegations, whether it's training or just general support, understand what it takes to be successful in each role and make sure they've got what they need to deliver to you and your business. Managing risk. So I see risk as twofold thing. One is compliance related risks. So Fair Work Health and Safety Act, and the umpteen other acts of legislation that we need to understand. But the other bit is business-related risk. What about key people in your organisation? What if they up and leave your business? Where is all the information stored? What if that disappears? I had this just the other day. A general manager left in difficult circumstances. He took all the passwords, all the Google Drive. They can't get anything. They can't find a quote. They've lost all the quotes that they've given for businesses over the last 6 months. So think about risks in your business and how best to manage them. And of course, value at others. Yeah, we have employee of the month and all that. I'm not a fan of those, frankly, but there's also informal mechanisms. Just saying thank you. Don't underestimate the importance of saying thank you. You did a good job and I really appreciate it. That's really powerful stuff, but it's simple. Don't underestimate the value of those non-monetary intangible benefits. Even just engaging people in conversation, seeking their input, suggestions, telling them what's going on in the business is a way of showing them that you value them. I appreciate I've run through that very quickly, but as I said, I will ask Ross to send out the presentation to you so you can see the detail. But thinking about your own business or a client that you have, does anybody want to make a comment about a particular challenge that perhaps might align with one of those 8 components of the model?
Greg, thank you very much for a great presentation. I appreciate the 8 values that you, or parts of your framework that you shared with us today, and it was a great question and answer session through there as well. If people want to contact Greg, his contact details are in the chat, and we'll obviously be putting this out, and you can connect with him on LinkedIn and directly if you've got other questions. Thank you very much, Greg, for a great presentation and making the time available.
Thank you, Ross.